Three, two, one. Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to our Mindful Leadership podcast with my wonderful co host, Natasha Rocha. Hello, Natasha.
Hello, everybody.
And welcome also to our special guest. Now, please correct me if I get your name wrong at all. Is Sjeanne Cawdry, is that right?
Yeah, the first part's great.
Oh,
Cawdry, pretty
Cawdry,
close. Sjeanne
fantastic.
Cawdry, yeah. Thank you
Sjeanne
so
Cawdry.
much. Great to be here with you, Jon and Natasha. So excited to be talking with you and sharing with your audience.
Welcome, welcome. I'm going to quickly read your bio so we have a general idea, and then I'm going to ask you very much about your journey and how you got to where you got to. It's always nice to meet a fellow South African as well and to hear about your
Likewise.
journey for sure. So, so Sjeanne is the founder of the Center of Liberation, Reinvention Strategies and Advisor and Consultant Center of Liberation. Wow, that's amazing! Can't wait to hear more about that. And quantum reinvention strategist, wealth architect, future-proofing business and leadership speaker. So Sjeanne is a 0.001% high performer outlier, redefining what is possible in leadership, wealth, and personal reinvention. As a former world-ranked squash athlete, number 22, fourth-time Comrades ultra-marathon finisher, that is impressive, which is 90 kilometers or 56 miles, and a corporate and investment banking leader who entered the industry at 39 with no prior experience. Sjeanne embodies the art of transcending limits and reinventing success. Oh, I love that. Now, as a quantum reinvention strategist and wealth architect, Sjeanne guides high-level entrepreneurs, leaders, and visionaries to future-proof their business, impact high-performance strategy, business mastery, financial intelligence, and applies her unique understanding in the field of energy and frequency so that others break free from the outdated paradigms, master exponential growth, and architect sustainable success. I love that. Sjeanne has simplified the complex and helps leaders and entrepreneurs to understand how AI is reshaping in the entire industries, Bitcoin, Web3, and decentralized finance, as are disrupting traditional financial models, and how leaders need to be capturing the opportunities that lie in the greatest wealth transfer in the history of mankind. So you have distilled 5 impactful paradigm shifts and are emerging, the 5 paradigm shifts that are emerging, which leaders in businesses around the globe should pay attention to as they reinvent themselves or risk being left behind. And that's absolutely incredible. So we can talk about anything from quantum leadership, leadership 3.0, why leaders of the new economy are embracing mindset, energy, and quantum strategy, and rewriting the rules of business growth through elevated consciousness. Tell us more about how you got to where you got to, please.
So great, so great. So I think I'm assuming that, like many of your listeners, I myself have been on a very deep and profound spiritual journey from a very young age. And really just I want to say, a search for my current, a search for my, the expression of the essence of who I am. And it's, I'm fortunate to be in a place now where it's not so much searching, but more just have remembered. And that feels pretty good. I think the sort of the journey into liberation of voice, and when I mean voice, I mean, and hence center of liberation. I think many of us, due to the nature of how we've grown up in society and programs and the limitations and what we bought into in this, let's say, more three-dimensional reality, sort of numb down and dumb down the essence of who we are. So voice for me is about essence. It's about liberating the heart expression, which is where one's essence emerges from, and learning how to make our hearts front and center again. And I discovered, I suppose, at the age of 33, and big sort of crisis of my own, which was the start of my spiritual awakening, and 52 now. You know, at that point, I described my heart as a frozen heart. I described my heart as a steely heart. It was just like, felt this like this lump of lead in my chest. And I just became super curious of that as I was going through this massive, massive reinvention of my life in so many ways. And so the liberation of that to be front and center, and then the essence voice ready to come back online. One can call that soul. One can, connect into becoming one, connect into becoming whole. And during that time at 33, 32, um, I came across quantum mechanics, quantum physics, what the bleep. And that because of the whole nature of what I was going through, I it just really resonated with me. And so for 20 years, I got into the practice of energy and spirituality, and that process was around really help facilitate the unlocking of my soul, my essence. And from what I would describe as a very lost and confused individual, I find myself now with I don't understand it all, but I know more now than what I did then. And so really living front and center with heart-led, heart orientation, and and then wrapping the intelligence of my mind around what comes through the heart. And what comes through the heart is a deep connection into the quantum. And really just, I'll just summarize that by saying that I think we're in a period now where the spiritual technologies, now I'm very, you would have heard, I'm very results orientated, from professional sport to Crazy Comrades marathons, ultra marathons, and, wealth. And I'm not a financial advisor, but really understanding how to merge these worlds of business and wealth together, wealth mastery. But I feel like we're at a point now where these spiritual technologies, with the rise in consciousness that's taken place significantly, we have these spiritual technologies, our own superpowers that are very unique to each of us, that are encouraging us to come back into heart-led living. And with that, that is a different way of operating in the world, and it's creating, probably there's a few other trends that are creating confusion, but this journey back into heart and stripping away the truth of who we are not into the truth of who we are, and into the expression of essence and voice, and liberating that as sovereign beings, is, I think, front and center for many people, and can create disorientation and confusion. And those sort of things lead to these big personal reinventions, because whatever is not true needs to fall away. Mm.
Wow. You came to the right podcast. um, it's so cool, Sean, just listening to both your a little, like, some hints about your journey, and then also your realization that the world is shifting, and likely that there's many that don't know that it's shifting, or
Mm.
perhaps in the way that it's shifting. Um,
Mm.
and what it's fascinating, because when I started my own business, my business of one, um, in May last year, so almost up on a year since then, I called it Heart Centered Wellness Limited, and
Beautiful.
and I felt like, because I was asking myself, I'm terrible at names. I was thinking, but Jon, what is the thing you're good at? Like, what's the one thing that you feel like, this world needs help with, and that you have a superpower that can help the world with? And it's like, oh, I think it's my heart. I think it's like this journey I've been through in simple terms, because spiritual awakening is a very, like, difficult and loaded term for many, and doesn't
Yes.
really describe much about. And I think that's good that it doesn't describe too much detail. But for me, my experience was all about, as you said, like, opening up your heart, and it now being such an integral part of my life, the way I see the world, the way I treat others, the way I treat myself. and
Mm.
and it's a bit of a shock for the mind, right? The mind's like, can we not just do a spreadsheet? It's like, no. Like, that's
Yeah, please
that's
give me the
good.
spreadsheet.
That's right, yeah. Don't worry, we're going to get there. But it's like, there needs to be, like, how do you know, mind, which spreadsheets it's going to be? Do you even need a spreadsheet? Like, what are all the constraints that your mind is, like, you programmed yourselves into? Whereas when our hearts
Yes.
awaken, it feels like, for me, it just felt so liberating, and my days feel so much more expansive, and so almost like without some of those quantum aspects, like without time, without linear progression, without having to work out sums, even like even simple tasks, you can say, heart, take me to the, to the rough number. Like, is that like
Mm,
100, 1,000, a million? And your heart go, I think it's about here. And then say, okay, mind, let's come up with the exact number
yeah,
together. And
so
I
beautiful.
really love that in your journey. Could take me back, please, to the point where you described this like this really heavy, like this lead weight of a heart.
Mm.
Mm,
What during that transition point, like what were the some of those feelings that you went through? Because it's a lot to get our minds and hearts around, right?
mm,
I, and I know I've done a lot of healing for the heavy leaded heart I had
mm,
previously, and I just love to hear a bit more in your own words about your journey around that first transition
mm.
of opening your heart.
Um, what do you say? Like, what is the feeling of, kind of what transpired? And like, I didn't feel. I
Mm-hmm.
was what I described as flatlined,
Mm.
like literally
Wow,
flatlined, and
yeah.
I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
understand it, and I could. So, my journey, and I think there's many people, the human experiences. I would always say in South Africa we have a saying. So Natasha, you'll remember the sissies, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not for the faint-hearted. And I think first of all, I just want to say to any of your listeners and just people generally, like the human experience is the toughest experience, and especially at this
Mm.
time, we're moving through such profound, I want to say universal expansion. The universe is expanding and it's available for the universe to expand its consciousness. And when I say universe, for me, it's the divine, it's source, it's etc. And I believe we have an interactive relationship with source that when humanity is a certain level of consciousness that we contribute to the expansion of the
Mm.
universe is expanding, so we have what I call new timelines and dimensions that are here now. So a timeline is simply just like realities that are available. So everyone's living in a
Mm.
current reality. That's what you think is available, but we actually on new realities. But to get to the point where I can kind of tune into these things, and Jon, to circle back then to the frozen heart, I started saying, that many of us have been through, all of us have been through challenges. I don't think any of us are untouched by challenges, and there's no comparison. There's no, if mine is bigger or smaller, whatever. It's just like wow, and that was all necessary, not because in any way, shape, or form we were being punished in any way, or the human experience is like the wrong experience, or I've done something wrong. Those experiences, I think what people don't realize is those experiences were designed and cultivated by the heart to happen and still happen. So whatever you're going through, that is by design of your heart and your soul, the essence of who you are, to wake you up, to bring your heart front and center, to bring it back from being exiled. And so my journey into the frozen heart transpired with me recognizing at a very young age that I was gay in South Africa some 35 years ago, whatever that was. And that was incredibly challenging, and that whole experience was very numbing, was very fearful, and I chose to come out at a very young age, and some of it was okay, some of it did not go well, and so I experienced a lot of hardship and a lot of rejection and a lot of um, exiling and abandonment and etc. through that, and I just didn't have the skills to walk through it. Now that's not a story of like, oh, and there were many things around that also transpired. I was also like phenomenally capable as a youngster, and so I was that kid on the playground who felt like I don't belong. Where do I belong? Like I'm different. I was playing sport. I was like 13 and playing against women in squash. I was like great on the hockey field, and arrived in what we call high school. And before I knew it, I was playing first team hockey, and all of these things kind of like, what did my peers do with me? They didn't know what to do with me. I didn't know what to do with me. And so the shutdowns and the experiences of hardships were like, okay, like this, so you're this capable young female who's doesn't know any different, but competing with the boys and beating the boys at many things, and then um playing men's league at the age of 14, and you know, and that for me was normal, but it brought with it a certain level of difficulty. And as I went through those difficulties, it was like, you know, get smaller. And I think, you know, particularly sort of coming out as being gay, like I still remember how I exiled. I literally, my soul left. And I feel many people through their experiences, their souls have exiled. Part of their hearts and spirits have exiled. And so what's happening now is that we're opening up to, you know, for those people who are ready, it's like, and we always, the healing journey is always pulling back fragments of our soul, but we have a quest. I'd say, you know, a large portion of humanity is on a quest to become more whole, to remember who we are. And so it's not that we're broken, it's not that we're fixed, it's not that this is some secret code. It's just like, oh, I'm just remembering. And so my frozen heart and that journey was like I just became flatlined as a mechanism to armor up, to move through life, to get through life. And those are all just survival strategies. And again, I'll say it wasn't actually a hardship, and I've only been able to really reframe this for myself, in fact, a year and a half ago, to recognize as it started coming together for me, and as I started to sort of download and get the kind of full picture of how this journey works, was that it was one of the most powerful acts in all of the acts of me stepping and standing in truth at the age of whatever the ages those were, and expressing my truth at young ages, and coming out and actually speaking truth in essence, even though I didn't know necessarily how to navigate that thereafter, were all acts of being very, very powerful. And so I think for many of the listeners, your traumas that you may have, and we've all been through traumas, and the experiences is all massive acts of how powerful you are, because those were calls to action from your heart that you would have stepped into. It was the receivers potentially who weren't able to hold it. That is how powerful your heart is. And the journey, and it's just taking some time, is to come back to the current of who we are. And so that's where really, you know, I've reinvented so many times. You would have heard it in my bio, and one of my most recent reinventions, and because that's the normal, natural human experience, so that the reinventions are becoming, our power is our greatest asset. In other words, the power of our ability to create is our greatest asset. The currency is self-trust. And so in my recent reinvention, where I moved to the States a year and a half ago at the age of 51 with my wife, I deliberately collapsed. I spent time on Whidbey Island. I deliberately collapsed my whole South African identity, because I wanted, even though I've been on this journey for a long time, I wanted the next version and truth and essence expression to be one that was even more pure. So I spent, like I would say, a bit of a Michael Singer period of really collapsing identities, and it was so disorientating and so okay, and it feels so good now. And so I know the process is disorientating, and you know, during that time I really began to understand what it was to be in the current of your life, and that is really the invitation of what's happening for many people right now. And it's confusing. You get stuck. You're like, who are you? What should you do? What's my career? All that's happening is that your heart is coming back online in a way bigger way than what it was doing previously, because many of your listeners won't be like new to healing. It's just at an inflection point now, so it could be far more intensely felt.
Wow, that's so inspirational. Just yeah, listening to, there's so much to unpack there. There's so much to say. That's incredible, and thank you for having the courage to be leading the way, because your voice in, coming out and being who you are completely encouraged so many to really fall behind. And sometimes you don't even realize how many people we support. And it's amazing how we move through these patterns of making ourselves smaller so that we are digestible to other people. And I love that you push through those boundaries all the time. And yeah, I'm in absolute awe of the courage that you've taken in reinventing, really rewriting your story. over and over again, because we have that ability to do that. And I think it's so important. And really looking at those opportunities, those challenges, those traumas, because like you say, the heart defines them. And I look at it from it is so purposeful that we do that as part of our mission, especially on a soul level. We choose those, I believe, we create those lineages, we choose those times, we choose the countries, we choose our names. We were talking about how important a name is just before that, because all of those frequencies add to the experience that we've come to, the theme we've come to experience, our mission that we've come to. And you're absolutely right, because as the collective changes, we need to understand that. And I think that a lot of us, especially us in this group that brings us together, is really about pushing through those boundaries and starting to create those energetic frequencies where we can support those that were us 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, because we've been through that. So it's almost kind of like, it's okay, we can do this, moving forward. And I love that the heart in connecting everything, because if we look at it from a chakra position, it links the physical to the metaphysical.
Yes.
And one thing that I also like growing up in South Africa, it was like, you don't have time. There's no feeling. My mom was like, crying doesn't fix anything. Your head controls your body and you just move forward. And that's how we ended up doing that. So it's all, and it's like you say, like, it's like stop being a sissy, which is stop being a poopy pants, or stop being so weak and just get on with it. And it's almost kind of like we had the saying, like, somebody always has it worse than you do. So why are you complaining? But so it was quite interesting when I went through my reawakening, which I understand, where all of a sudden I was left with all of these kind of like, how do we tap into our heart? The business is a baby. I mean, we call the business babies, but yet we're not supposed to feel anything. And then connecting into that, I don't know if we all go through this numbness. And I was speaking about it this morning to a very good friend of mine, because she was talking about how she ended up going to see a psychologist. And I was like, what drove you there? And she said, because I was absolutely numb, no happy, no sad, no nothing. We were just focused on where we needed to go. And I was like, oh, interesting, because I also hit that phase. And the first time I went, I cried. That's all I did. I just cried for an hour. And it was so foreign to me. It felt like I'd been beaten by a baseball bat. But that was also some of the aspect of, because it's like it's so physical, but it's that heart starting to open and starting to do things from a place of love and compassion and understanding and direction and intuition and all the rest of that. And I think that's where there is a resistance now in the corporate world, because how do we deal with that? We don't know how to deal with that, because we've always been very much male, which is the mind, which is needed, the structure, the moving forward, the doing, all the rest of that. But how do we bring that into alignment with what our heart wants, which is so important in that sense, where we've just, I think a lot of the times been taught to ignore the heart. It's like, it's not what the heart wants, it's what's logical. What are the figures? What is the black and white? What is in the spreadsheet? So what is your advice or your suggestions in how does one change their mindset, or bring in that acceptance of learning to lead with the heart, or at least give that heart that balance? Because I honestly feel that when your head and your heart are not in alignment, the solution, the ideal solution, is not there. When your head and your heart are in alignment, you're being led by your soul. But it's almost like muscle memory. You've been trained so much to, and I find myself bringing myself back to my heart. No, like, let's bring that in. What are your what are tools can we give people to accept that space of their heart? Because I think a lot of the time we talk about unconditional love, but we don't talk about radical self-acceptance, because we reject those aspects of ourselves.
So good. I love what you're saying, and thanks so much for sharing. Oops, there goes my lighting. Sorry about that. And thanks so much for sharing those elements that you've just shared. And that is definitely one of the big questions. Sorry, I just spilled a glass of water there. Um, and I'm going to call it radical self-acceptance. I'm going to call it acts of radical surrender.
Beautiful.
Acts of radical surrender. Surrender is an action.
Mm-hmm.
So let me take it into this space. And I'm going to try and answer this as simply and as best as I can, but you're going to probably have a little bit of a download here. So here we go. So we're in a time space now where I said to you we're on new timelines. This is my perspective and the stand that I take. In terms of like AI is taking from scarce intelligence of your logical brain, which you're articulating, and that's been amplified. And Jon, you've been in the IT world, and we're moving that intelligence from the brain into a database. And so where does that leave us? We've got this whole, if you look at digitization of assets in the financial world, and I come from traditional finance, but I'm deeply interested in the digital assets. Digital assets, at the heart of that is about sovereignty. If you imagine scarce intelligence that you were once paid for in your mind being taken into a database, where does it leave you? It leaves you with your greatest asset, I said earlier, is your creative power. Because once you start, anyone who's engaged with AI, and I engage with it, I think it's fantastic and a useful tool. And it opens up my right brain. I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. And so that connecting of the dots of sovereignty is like, oh, AI, yes, used in the right format, is really driving our ability to be powerful creators in a whole new way and waking that up in a very deliberate and new way that hasn't been done before. So I talk about manifestation 3.0, where I believe most of the world is on manifestation 2.0, and manifestation 1.0 was the secret, but we've evolved. And that's why in my bio, I'll talk about architecting things, because we're in a place where we can literally, like a 3D printer, architect realities if you hone the skill. But I want to come back to, and I will talk about tools. I want to come back to, okay, so what does that mean? That's all well and good. So we have this whole sovereignty, freeing our creativity, amongst other things. And the freeing is the freeing of individuals into the expression of who they are. When I was on Whidbey Island and coming to how you tune into the heart, it really came together for me, even though I've been on this journey for multiple years and I've done multiple things to open my heart. Meditation is a big practice of mine daily. I'm a huge meditator. Contemplation, I spend time in nature daily conversing with the universe. I craft and carve out a significant portion, maybe 2 to 3 hours a day, of some kind of connecting activity. It's that important to me. And I'm breaking the pattern of productivity. My productivity is in the heart, and I'll share why. Because it opens up to new ideas, and that is the art of being powerful creators. Is the more conscious we become, the more we meditate, contemplate, get in stillness, create these times with nature, we receive new ideas, which is what AI is doing. Where do you receive new ideas? If your audience believes that thoughts create reality, or believes in the concept of abundance or possibilities, where do possibilities come from? The field. How do you access them? You access new ideas that align with your heart and the joy of your heart, and then it's about taking that into full fruition and extracting all the juice. I don't go into the details, but I'm just going to mention there's a fractal of that is a pattern in the field that we are able to encode by our pineal gland, and the fractal of the idea holds all the information we need, and then only does the logical mind come in at the end. But like I said, where this all came together for me was when I was on Whidbey Island, and I'd watch the eagles, and how do you get in tune with the heart, and these beautiful bald eagles. And we had this magnificent view of Mount Rainier over the bay, looking over into Seattle. And it was like, it was just a phenomenal sort of few months that we got to spend there. And I'd watch these eagles take flight into a current, and they would go for miles, just without using their wings, and just ride the currents of the breeze. And occasionally they would be riding the currents of winds and stuff like that, flying against the current. And I started to realize that around all of us, but we've become so disconnected and armored up and logical that it's difficult to tune into it. And it's not. all of your listeners will be sitting with something where there is a current prompting them. It's an intuition. The eagles have to feel this energy system around them. It's the invisible energy system of the universal intelligence that knows there is a current for you, that knows that there is a very specific, very easy and effortless current that if you are willing to enforce the act of surrender, let go of your branch, because the impulse is there. You're not the impulse. The universe doesn't fly. Eagles don't fly. They are flown. They receive the impulse of the current. They have to trust and let go and then fall into the current. And that's it. So if you think about it, that is how intelligent source is. It knows the quickest path, and intelligence coming through your heart knows the quickest path to your destination with the least effort. Your heart knows super innovative ways to do things, ways we could never imagine. How did I land up in the United States? That is a whole, I could never have imagined it. I could never have constructed it. So it's learning to the intuitive hits, the signs. You might get signposts. You could get license plate numbers, you get messages, you get hits, you get downloads, there's a synchronistic conversation. The universe uses all of these tools to say there is a current for you. Where we fall over is, and one of the things I talk about is kind of poverty consciousness. Number one, we've disconnected from trusting our fire. We've disconnected from trusting the truth. To your point, you mentioned it earlier. We've dialed down, we've become smaller, we fit it in, we call it strategic, so that I dial down, I swallow what I want to say, I kind of disappear, I dilute, I undermine myself. I say that is your vessel, your consciousness, your identity is like a bucket, it has holes in it. And then like a bucket, if your bucket of water has holes in it, you're going to go fill it up at a tap. So this is your consciousness, your vessel. When you're leaking your value and you're undermining your value and who you are, the essence of who you are, and you think your existence doesn't matter, I'm not good enough, I don't have the right hair color, I'm not thin enough, I'm not fat enough, all of that kind of good stuff, there's something wrong with me. That vessel of consciousness has holes in it, the water is leaking out. So what do? You take your bucket and you run over to that tap and you quickly fill it up, because you're looking for things outside of yourself to fill up, because you're leaking your value. Fill up the bucket and off you go running, and you think this thing is going to fix and heal you. No, because you are undermining, and we have very powerful underminers. We have very powerful diluters of who we are, of these separation things. And so then I want to try this thing, and I run to that tap and I fill my bucket in that tap, and I will whatever, try this and hope that this will fix me, and seek no, and off you go and you feel full for a bit, but the vessel is leaking. And so the real journey is around saying, actually, I need to come back. My bucket isn't broken. I have a full bucket. I'm whole and complete exactly as I am. I have everything that I need right now. The key thing is start to tune into your current, take flight, and the act of surrender into your current will take you super far. Trust it. Everything that you are right now, the real wealth transfer is back into dismantling. And you mentioned it earlier, the poverty consciousness, the undervaluing, the undermining of self, the self-abandonment, the lack of self-trust in self. And when you start to just flip the switch into, oh, I'm whole and complete already, irrespective, I don't need to chase around with my bucket, then that is like we start dismantling I kind of say the inheritance. The real wealth transfer is the transfer back inside. And we dismantle this inheritance of self-doubt, of self-abandonment, of scarcity. The real scarcity consciousness lives within ourselves. And so knowing that you are whole, that you're important, your existence matters. And those tools and practices are the things that you are doing right now, except you just don't have to, you don't need to be fixed. You don't need to chase. All you want to do is just remember, just tune in and open your heart. It is actually so simple. Create space for yourself. Be in nature. Go back to your youth and your childhood. What were you so amazing at that you just did so naturally, because those were your currents, that you were just tuning in naturally to the universe and the intelligence? And can you trust, that the universe has got this? Meditation, mindfulness, stillness, breath work, journaling, being amongst conscious communities, starting to follow what you prefer and what you truly, just start with what you like, then move on to what you really enjoy, and then move into like what brings you into this place of ecstasy and bliss. Be comfortable with consistency and be comfortable with being bored, because we are so programmed to want to be productive, to fix, to build something, to prove, to show. And so when your bucket is leaking all of that, the universe says, okay, I'm going to give you, then I'm going to take it away, because you love building, you love fixing, you whatever. So I must break what I'm giving you. And so you have a leaky bucket so that you can fix, and then you can prove yourself and you can show yourself that you're valuable. The universe just thinks you're amazing exactly as you are, exactly as you are. So
Wow.
Thank you.
So much. Thank you for sharing so much. And as you were talking, like some of those first points reminded me of some of the third dimensional kind of business paradigms we still have, where, for instance, in recruitment, or when managers like talking with an employee during like an annual review or something, and they'll be, you'll ask questions like, what are your results? All the very standard things. But I don't think I was ever asked in 26 years, was my heart in it? Or how much was my heart in it? And I'm sure now, if I ever did decide to hire someone or to work with them, I'd ask, how is your heart in this? Like, do you, because, your results look
so
amazing and
good.
that's why we're
So
talking, but
good.
how do you feel about it? Or are you like done with this? Like, are you like, like, for instance, if I tried to go back to that career, I would feel like, no, my heart wouldn't be in it fully. And I absolutely resonate like that. I was those leaky buckets you speak of was like, for me, was I tried, well, alcohol for quite a few decades, and it kind of numbed the sensation of
Mm,
the leaks themselves. And also blurred, like my heart felt like quite constrained. And I
mm,
felt quite like, I'd always describe it like my solar plexus, between my heart and my solar plexus. Physically, I would feel this like kind of misty fog
mm,
sensation across my heart and lungs, even though I was running 4 miles a day. It felt weird. It felt like this funny energy on me that only cleared during vacations. But I also lacked this feeling, and lack is such a powerful fear word, right? And we're still,
Mm.
as a human race, as a world, still perpetuating this within each other. Only now, and only really in the last few months, have I started to truly feel what the absence of lack, like what abundance really feels
mm,
like. And so
mm,
those, so to some people, when you're describing a calendar that says, go and spend time in nature for 2 or 3 hours, you're going to receive these currents, these flow, because this is what you're built for, right? You're built for like
mm,
divine creation. And
mm,
so you receive energy in, and then you create, with your heart and mind and all of you
mm.
out of that process. And now, like, I must admit, that's what today my calendar looks like. I sat for about 2 hours staring out the window. I had my laptop next to me, and it's like, I don't really want to use it. I want to
Mm.
sit and receive. I'm going to sit, pat my dog, staring at the window. Let's look at the birds. We're coming really close. I was getting loads of thoughts about how to work more with others more freely. I really enjoy this work, for example.
Mhm.
Um, and I feel that this world, it's a revolution that happens within, right? It starts within our
Yes,
hearts. And so
fabulous.
this whole world isn't ready, right? There's no way any
Yeah.
of our, governments and 3D systems, including our financial systems, ranging through to, you know, pensions and taxes, and all the kind of mind-led constraints systems that have served us in the past. They're actually facing a revolution, and we're so used to those revolutions happening outside. Oh, there's this new thing, it's AI.
Mm.
AI is amazing. It's a phenomenal tool and can help accelerate creativity. Like, I can be an artist in my client sessions. We're just typing for a bit until it generates
So
the right
great.
the right AI art. But at the same time, what's driving them? Like, AI is just a reflection of our own creation and our own creativity. It
Mm.
comes from, like, I used to manage teams of scientists who I'd ask them, why are you starting working with that OpenAI model? And they would say, I just felt right. My intuition was to try this first. And it's
Mm.
like, oh, so that's where it comes from. It comes from your heart, like you're following what feels right for you. So my question is about this radical revolution that's starting within our hearts and is now starting to accelerate and take more of effect across the world. And this is an open-ended question. What do you feel
Yeah.
the sorts of changes are that we as a global civilization, as a human race,
Mm.
face?
So yeah, such a great question. And I feel like there will be a few different realities or timelines
Mm.
that people will get to choose. We have free will. And so with anything, the universe is not like it's going to say, here's a current for you. Like, I'm so intelligent, this is going to be a great current for you. And if you can feel into that, and the mechanism we feel into that is you keep talking about feeling. We feel into, oh, this could feel so good. This feels so nourishing. Like, I think knowing timelines and realities that are nourishing, engaging in things that are nourishing, because if you think about food, we receive food to nourish ourselves and from the inside. And so we're so disconnected from nourishing. And so I think there will be various timelines available. We will have free will. There will be timelines for my sense of this, where people are just like completely into digital and are living in metaverses, and that's their world and that's their realities. And you know, they still enjoy the, let's say, the more top-down hierarchical structures of control, and this is how we work. And I think there will be a migration of people into those timelines. You'll have migration of people into like purely nature, nothing to do with technology over. And so I think we'll have opportunity to choose. Like, we have free will, so we will get to choose what sort of reality we live in and for. We will each be given the opportunity, and that's why I keep kind of saying that technology is driven by human intelligence. Like, who's doing the AI? Humans are doing the AI through a great deal of intelligence. And more so, as we open up our hearts, which, if you open up your heart, you are expanding your morphic field, auric field, whatever it is you're wanting to call it. Your field actually expands, and so you're able to receive more information. You're able to receive, more hits from the divine as such, and more intelligence to kind of prompt you in a direction. I think there'll be communities, a lot of community living. I think you're already seeing it in some parts, even in South Africa. In fact, there's a community in South Africa, in the Orange Free State, that is completely operating with its own kind of system of leadership. Heart-led living is self-led, and it's self-orienting. And so, for example, in the digital assets, in the crypto world and Web3 world, for example, what they call it, like decentralized autonomous DAOs. It's a very complex statement for saying that it's groups of people getting together, self-leading and if you'll be familiar in the corporate world, agile, and you've got these kind of teams that come together and then they disband. So I feel like we will start to have communities that are that way orientated, with a set of values that people ascribe to. I feel like we'll move into I'm not sure where fiat money, for example, actually resides, because if you think about, and so before I go there, I will say that I think there will be more trade economies in these communities where people are trading skills and trading. I think we will have a bit of a movement back towards some of those essences, because if you think about digital assets, so it's all digitized. Even fiat is digitized because you're paying over it's just a series of numbers when you're making a digital payment. But if you think about AI, what drives your GDP of a country is around productivity. And if AI is taking a lot of that productivity of the logical brain into a data set and making it into abundance intelligence, like, what is productivity in the future, actually? And I'm talking about the future. I'm talking that's happening now. Then what do I get paid for? And that's why I kind of say dealing with your own poverty consciousness within is so important, the wealth transfer, because your being, the essence of who you are, is valuable enough. But where does that leave money? because these communities that I think will probably start to pop up everywhere will probably work, and even AI is going to work more and more on digital assets, on tokenization, on blockchain and that kind of stuff. So where does that leave actual money and exchange of value? I don't know really, and I don't have the answer. No one does. And when we work with the heart, we don't know. And that's the interesting thing. It is the unknown. It is, we only know the next step. We only know the next, when you work with the heart, it's not a linear strategy. Let's go X, Y, and Z. It's like, ask your heart, what's next? Like, what's the next step? What's the next step? And you'll get the answer. That's how it works in immediacy. And so, I think we'll have these various different timelines. And I think and feel together that this is why it's important. You don't have to spend 3 hours, but starting to, what is the most, your 10 out of 10 perfect day? What is that? Because I keep saying our greatest asset is our ability to powerfully create. And that's coming online more and more and more, and spending time being able to architect that reality, because that reality will come into fruition. It is available for these realities. So you will have the choice of what sort of community, what sort of environment, what sort of people, nurturing, loving. The more we take in the qualities of the creator and heart opening, we start to open into more compassion. We start to open into the qualities of the creator, of the divine, and embody those ourselves, which is a more loving, a more caring, a more nurturing, a more whole, a more, it's less competitive, it's more cooperation, it's more community orientated, it's shared resources, shared value. It's not like my wealth, me, my territory, grow my little empire for my family. So I think we'll start to see these communities that look and feel different, that we get to architect and create, and then you will find like-minded people orientating towards one another to bring those into fruition, is my sense.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Working with different timelines as well, and the Akashic records, absolutely. I see that all happening for sure. And I see that all happening simultaneously because people's experiences are very different to our own, and we might be sitting right next to them. And they might be living a total different timeline, a totally different reality at the same time, which is so incredible. But yeah, I see that too, and people starting to, and this theme has been coming up as well for me and for some of my clients. We're so conditioned to survive. We don't know what it feels like to thrive. That is out there. And we are so conditioned to wealth consciousness being financial, not the people that feed us, the things that we watch, the people around us, the communities that we're in, the environments we place ourselves in. Time wealth is the other thing that we're starting
Beautiful.
to. So pick 2-3 hours for yourself. That shows that aspect of time wealth, because that is, like you say, being able to connect to our hearts and to that creative center. And I think that we're so used to placing kind of like restrictions, like sales targets, all these things, that they're all limitations, because instead of using them as perhaps maybe even foundations, they become glass ceilings. So we're so used to placing that into that, and when we're coming through the heart, the unknown, I think scares a lot of people, because it's that releasing of control. And
Yes.
control is a trauma. It's obviously a trauma tool that we use to keep ourselves safe. So it's learning to trust that we are safe, and connecting into the heart. The other thing that brings us into the present moment, because it's not out there, it's in here. And I feel that that is so important and such a great tool, because as you say, that creates our timeline, our reality. And I love that you talk about becoming the architects, because we are the architects. We just don't know that we're creating the
Yeah.
environment. So to become consciously creating that environment, I think, is of utmost importance. And learning the skill to shift from very much that what we call a 3D to, or from the brain to the heart, is very important, because that is one of the things that is uncomfortable because it's the unknown. So I've spoken about when I went through my reawakening, where I was like, okay, I've meditated for 8 days. Where's the results of my life, the external world? And you're like, no,
Where's the
this
money?
is like action, reaction, action, reaction. And I needed to look like this. And I think that's the whole thing where it's like, oh, wait a minute, maybe it doesn't look like that, but let's see what shows up, what opportunities, looking for those signs and grabbing them. Because I think we limit ourselves very much in how we want the results to be. So that aspect of being in heart is like, so what is showing up for us and what opportunities can we create moves us far beyond those boundaries that we would normally create, which is comfortable, and throws us into the uncomfortable, which we might end up receiving more than what we expected anyway. So I love all of that, that you speak about. It really, I think it's so current, and I think it's so needed to support so many people that are awakening and wanting to really, I suppose we're always in control, but grabbing that aspect of like, I control my life, I am sovereign, I am the one who chooses where I go next, and what happened, how I respond, is the other thing as well,
Yes,
which is
so
quite
powerful.
important. Yeah, I don't know if it's just more of like, yeah, I just love what you're saying. I think an hour is like not enough. I think we need to speak about more
No,
things.
it's been
We'll get you
beautiful.
back.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For
so
sure.
beautiful. Yeah, no, I think you know I think this is the heart of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think if your viewers had to be honest with themselves, like what's one of their favorite parts of the day or week, whatever, is when they get to listen to your show. And it's that simple. It's these conversations. This is like one of my favorite things. Like I love talking about this. Like I want to do it more. I want like the more people I can talk. It's not sitting behind my computer typing up a it's not like it's not that. It's like the conversations. It's these, and it's enjoyable, and it's like, and it's that simple, so how we create these realities where we are coming back into these meaningful connecting conversations that are so simple. I love, Jon, you speak about your dog, and like it's like one of my favorite things. Like I just hang out with my beagle, and I have the opportunity to work from home and hang out with him and do work, and connect with people like you guys. Like it's that simple, that enjoyable. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. And yeah, we'll definitely get you back. We could talk for hours. It would be so much fun.
Yeah, so we'll definitely be staying in contact, and would love to be back, and yeah, just meander in these beautiful rivers of conversation are very fulfilling and very nourishing.
Wonderful. And
Mm.
perhaps, Natasha, just before we go into
Yeah.
mindful meditation, how can people reach out to you?
Yeah, thanks so much. So you can go to my website. I am in the process of revamping, rebranding, so it does not necessarily reflect who I am, but you can connect with me through there. So I'm pretty active on Facebook and LinkedIn. So
Perfect.
those are probably my preferred channels. Just you can DM, WhatsApp me, or rather message me, or just yeah, just follow me on those sort of channels, and you'll get a sense of the kind of work I do.
Fabulous.
Beautiful. And we'll
Amazing.
add that all in. Yeah, I can't wait to dive in and see more about what you do. Yeah,
Beautiful.
I'm
Thank you so
excited for
much,
that.
guys.
Okay,
Yeah,
shall we
thank
jump
you.
into a little bit of
Amazing.
a quick meditation? Oh, what's going to come up today, I wonder. Okay, I'm going to get you to make yourself comfortable and close your eyes. Take a couple of deep breaths. Breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. And as you breathe in, focus on allowing that breath into your body. It's okay to be in this body, in this beautiful vehicle, and is allowing us to navigate this beautiful experience. And I'm going to invite you to bring your attention into your heart. You can place your hand on your heart or just focus in. How is your heart feeling? Is it heavy? Is it light? Take some time and hold some space for your heart. Tell it that it's safe. It's okay to release the restrictions. No more needing to hide the essence of who you are. Release the limitations, the shackles. Allow them to fall away. And let's allow that beautiful light that you already are, the essence of you, to start to shine. It's okay to be who you are. Knowing that you are not broken. Knowing that you are not limited. Remember who you are. Remember that aspect of divinity that you are. And as you as your heart starts to remember, as your heart starts to expand, you start to open up to the complete essence of who you are. And as this essence starts to shine through, it starts to recalibrate the rest of your body, the rest of your energy centers. And both the chakras below and those above, recalibrating to the essence, the divinity, the creativity that you already are. Allow this activation through all bodies, all minds, all emotions, allowing your etheric field, your energy body to adjust, all recalibrating to the divine essence that you already are. Surrender what no longer belongs and surrender to the flow of life, the flow of your highest potential timeline. Expand and match that frequency. And allow the timeline of your highest potential to carry you through not only the rest of the day or the rest of the week, but completely shift timelines. The timeline where you are expanded, where you are you, where you are in the flow of life. No more hiding, no more restricting. Just being being. And if your heart were to express something to you now, what would it say? Receive this information. And I encourage you to make a promise to your heart that you will listen, that you will express, that you will be completely you. No more surviving, no more lack, expansion, unconditional love, and radical acceptance of all that you already are. The divine core essence, that aspect of creator that is experiencing itself through your filter. And take one more deep breath in and allow all of these codes, the integration, the essence of you, to shine through all aspects of you. Knowing that when we open our eyes, we have completely shifted our timeline. We are no longer the person we used to be. We are the divinity that we were originally. One more deep breath. And when you are ready, you can open your eyes.
Wow. Thank you so much, Natasha. My heart
Thank you so much.
Jon, promise to be really gentle with me, because the more gentle I am, the more my heart opens and the more creative I am. So thank you for that beautiful gift.
Absolutely gorgeous. Thank you so much for a beautiful meditation.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom, and for reminding us that our heart exists and it has a voice and we need to lead with it.
Absolutely. You guys are amazing. The work that you're doing is amazing. And it's just been such a pleasure. Just so, so awesome. So delightful. Thank you.
Likewise. Thank you too.
Likewise.
Well, we'll let you go. Thank you so much for joining us, and yeah, we'll definitely get you on again. We'll be in touch, and yeah, we
Great
will be
job.
back with Mindful Leadership podcast shortly. So please do check out. We've passed over 20 episodes and over 250 downloads, which is fantastic. And celebrating these steps are just so lovely. And yeah, my heart always feels in it when I'm doing this work. I always have so much joy connecting with such beautiful souls. So thank you.
Likewise.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you in the next episode. Thank you. Sending love.
Bye.